What's going on, NFL fans? Welcome to Bleacher Report. I'm Josh Taylor. I usually cover the Washington Commanders, and I will be dipping my toes into the NFL draft on today's stream. And of course, you see all these experts throwing out some mock drafts and different scenarios and stuff like that. So I decided, why not take a look at 5 bold moves that I think could happen during the NFL draft? If you've watched the draft in years past, obviously you have no idea what's about to happen. Sometimes the craziest things happen, whether it's teams trading up, trading down, or trading big time players during the draft. The phones are busy, teams are aggressive. You just never know what's about to happen. So I decided to kind of put together 5 bold moves that I could see happening, but they are bold. So buckle up and let's get right to it. And I'm going to start with the quarterbacks, because the quarterbacks have been something that's talked about a lot recently. And I know a couple people think that, certain teams could trade up, whatever. But I'm taking a look at a certain scenario where, what if JJ McCarthy is traded, or if he's drafted by the Vikings? But a lot of people are taking a look at like 4 for the Cardinals. I'm thinking, what about 3? I don't think the Patriots are really in a position to take a quarterback and then just expect to succeed right away. Whichever quarterback goes to New England is pretty much set up to fail. I hate to say it if you're a Patriots fan, but I think it's time to realize the Patriots are way more than just a quarterback away from competing. Obviously, the whole, post Bill Belichick era, just kind of getting things going. Maybe they don't like JJ McCarthy at 3 for the Patriots. Maybe they don't like Jaden Daniels at 3, and they say, look, the Vikings have the ammo to trade up and give us a haul. We need this desperately to get things going in this new era. Obviously, the Vikings have pick 11, and then they have recently moved with the Browns to get pick 23. So they have 2 first-round picks now. They have enough. So what if JJ McCarthy is actually quarterback 3 in this draft? Now, me personally, I don't think so. But if you pay attention to folks on social media and listen to these draft experts, the league loves JJ McCarthy. They think that he is ready. Now, he is still super young, and he still has a couple things that he can work on. And there's a lot more to his game. But when you take a look at what he did at Michigan, and I know, like my argument is like he didn't throw it a lot. They didn't really lean on him. Like, the defense was great. The running game was amazing. Everything. He was in a really good scenario to succeed. But he did make some big time throws. You go back and watch the tape, and I'm telling you guys, I challenged myself. I was like, let me go watch JJ. Let me see what I missed. And there are some big time throws. But that offense under Harbaugh at Michigan was such a pro-style offense. It's really helping him get ready for the NFL. He's going to do a lot of the same things that he did at Michigan in the pros, and especially under someone like Kevin O'Connell. I think it is a great fit. You've already kind of heard people talk about, oh, the Vikings are a great position for him. And I don't disagree with that. I think it is a great spot for JJ McCarthy to go to. And like I said, I just don't see the Patriots in a situation where they're like, hey, let's take Jaden Daniels. Even though we don't really have the best weapons, we don't really have the best offensive line. Still waiting on Trent Brown to see what goes there. They get Mike Onwenu back. That's big. Defense, I don't know what to expect out of this Patriots team. Just load up assets right now while you can, when you're in a position to. Like, it's hard, getting a top 3 pick in the draft, no matter how bad you are. Like, as a Washington fan, it was hard to getting that number 2 pick, and we were a bad team. But getting that number 3 pick, yes, it's a luxury to be able to take a quarterback. What if the quarterback's not there? What if they're like, guys, this is not a good situation for this quarterback. Let's not get somebody right now. Maybe they take somebody in the 2nd, the 3rd, whatever, like Penix or Bo Nix or whatever happens with the Patriots selection. I think they need to trade that back, get a giant haul, whether it is both first this year from the Vikings to go all the way up to 3. Maybe it's some picks next year. But there's really good talent in this first round. I could see the Patriots rolling with Jacoby Brissett for a year and saying, let's take a wide receiver, or let's take some corners. Let's get some elite talent and build the foundation for the team before we just dive into the quarterback situation. And obviously, Jacoby Brissett could help mentor somebody if you do get somebody in the 2nd or 3rd or whatever it is. Like, he's a familiar face there. So I'm not ruling it out, but in my opinion, my bold take is, what if JJ is actually quarterback 3 over Jaden Daniels or over Drake May? Now, personally, I have Drake May going 2 to Washington. I think he's my quarterback 2. But obviously, right now, you're starting to hear a lot more Jaden Daniels hype. But the JJ McCarthy train is rolling full steam ahead. I could absolutely see it. Let's see. JJ is going to the New York Giants, says Jexulu. I wouldn't mind it, like I said, as someone in the NFC East. But it sounds like, according to Drew Lock in his press conference, he was like, hey, I was told that Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback. I am here to be the backup. Which is kind of bold to hear, first off, Drew Lock being told that. But then also trusting that Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback. Once again, as a Washington fan, I would love it. I'm not high on Daniel Jones, but as a Giants fan, you should definitely be concerned. But the Giants are kind of sitting there at 6, just kind of seeing what happens, whether they go wide receiver or if a quarterback does magically fall to them. I could see it, whether it's JJ or Jaden Daniels or Drake May. I could see a situation where the Giants would still take a quarterback. You have no idea what Daniel Jones is about to look like coming back from injury and what your team's going to look like. But you need some weapons. You need to help Daniel Jones out drastically. So, my opinion, bold take, JJ McCarthy is actually quarterback 3 on a lot of teams' board, more so than maybe Drake May or Jaden Daniels, which, in my opinion, is crazy because I like them both over JJ McCarthy. Now, let's talk about that pick at 4. Some people think that the Cardinals are going to trade back. They think that's a good spot. But in my opinion, if you are the Cardinals or you're a Cardinals fan, you obviously have pick 40, but then you also have pick 27. Like, what entices you to trade back from an elite talent and get more picks? Like, you already have 2 first. Just roll with what you have and take the best wide receiver on the board. Now, something else that's getting a lot of steam recently is maybe Malik Neighbors could be wide receiver 1. And honestly, I could see it. I love Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's kind of the Marvin Harrison Jr. Hype is kind of in the same train as Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has been the best prospect for 2 years now, and it wasn't even close. He probably would have gone first overall last year, in my opinion. I think it definitely would happen. And now people are like, oh, is Caleb actually that good? What's his talent against top 25 teams? Blah, 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 blah. Maybe Jaden should go 1. No. Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in this draft by a mile. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr., once again, if he could have, entered the draft last year, I think he would have been the first wide receiver taken as well. Maybe it's something we like to call prospect fatigue, where you've just been talking about them for so long. You're like, hey, I need to switch it up. Maybe Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1. But there is actually an argument to it, and it comes down to a couple things. One, this wide receiver draft class is just absolutely bonkers. But also, it's about fit. It's about what you like. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr., you take a look at a couple things. There's games where he just absolutely dominates. When Marvin Harrison Jr. just takes over games. When you look at yards per route run, 3.44. He had an 89.6 receiving grade this year. 8.2 drop rate's a little high for him. Contested catch rate, 43.3. I'll take it. He had 6 drops, yards after catch. He's not the best when it comes after the catch, only 6.4. Only 5 missed tackles forced, which is kind of crazy for someone his size. But he had 15 deep catches, which was 3rd in the nation. Almost 600 deep yards, which was 5th in the nation. You're not going to see this guy line up in the slot. You're not going to see him doing much screens or anything like that. But Malik Neighbors, in my opinion, could be the closest thing to a complete wide receiver. Not saying that, once again, Marvin Harrison Jr. is not a complete wide receiver, but if you're poking holes and you're trying to find what fits your team, maybe Malik Neighbors fits your team more if you're the Arizona Cardinals. And like I said, I could absolutely see it. His yards per route run are better at 3.64. Contested catch rate is a little bit better at 45.5. His drop rate was much better at 5.3. He only had 5 drops this year. He's better on screens. He had 30 missed tackles forced, which was 4th in the country this year from Malik Neighbors. He had 19 deep catches, which was 2nd. And that's with Brian Thomas Jr. opposite of him. I mean, he does have a Heisman quarterback in Jaden Daniels. but still it was a really good year for Malik Neighbors. Slot yards, he's lined up. He had 991 in the slot. This is a guy that can line up anywhere. So you're looking for that dominant wide receiver one. You lost Hollywood Brown. There's one of your weapons. Was he the best? Maybe not. But when you're the Cardinals, you need someone that can take games over, which could be Marvin Harrison Jr., but then also gives you the flexibility to like just do different things. You're not really just like, hey, let's throw you out there, Marvin Harrison Jr., you're on the outside by yourself. Like, we know you're going to be great. Malik Neighbors gives you the opportunity to do a couple different things. He had more contested catches. Like I said, slot yards. He's not the best screen guy by any means either, but he didn't have that many opportunities, screens going his way. He had 14 screen catches all season. But when you look at yards after the catch, when you look at contact balance, you're looking at the physical aspects of Malik Neighbors. I think he'd be great on screens. So that short, intermediate, and deep game, Malik Neighbors is absolutely, in my opinion, one of the most complete wide receivers in the last few years. Like I said, Marvin Harrison Jr. has been the guy for a long time, but maybe the Cardinals decide to go a different route and get Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison Jr. And then who knows, maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the Chargers and tears it up with Herbert, which would be great for both parties. But my honest opinion, I still have Marvin Harrison Jr. at one because I've seen so much Marvin Harrison Jr. I covered Penn State for 2 years and just watching what he could do, in person, I was like, this guy's it. But it would not surprise me if the Cardinals say, let's get Malik Neighbors. We think he fits what we do better. He's the first wide receiver taken off the board. So with that question, I'm going to drop a poll for y'all real quick. Haven't done a poll in a minute. Who is the better wide receiver? Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, or Rome Odunze could throw his hat in there as well, because Rome Odunze is elite at everything as well. So I'm going to drop this poll for y'all in the chat while I bring up my next point here. And let's stick with wide receivers. Speaking of Rome Odunze, let's bring Rome Odunze to the party of talking about wide receivers. Now, there's a team in the NFL who right before free agency, some people have forgotten about this. This happened quickly. It was like ripping off a Band-Aid, and then people just forgot about it. And then free agency, the frenzy happened, and people have been waiting to kind of hear something else, like about it, anything developing. And I was thinking this morning, like, we haven't heard anything on T Higgins. He said he wants to be traded. Obviously, they might be doing something in the background. The Bengals would love to keep T Higgins, obviously. But if T Higgins is traded, what do the Bengals do? I think the Bengals could be a team that could be aggressive in trading up and getting his replacement, and that would be Rome Odunze. And I think that is a beautiful fit when you have Jamar Chase. Having Rome Odunze on the other side of the field, that might be one of the best wide receiver duos like day one without him even catching a pass. That's ridiculous. And then obviously you have Joe Burrow. That's your guy. That's a top 5 quarterback in the league. I love Joe Burrow. I love his game. Obviously, as an Alabama fan, I didn't love him at LSU, but I love Joe Burrow. Give him another weapon. If you lose T Higgins, wherever T Higgins goes to, which we have no idea. We haven't heard anything about it. They are kind of just keeping things quiet, but it wouldn't surprise me if something either happens during the draft. I'll bring up a scenario next. I'm going to leave it for my last one, kind of a juicy one. But maybe he gets traded during the draft. Maybe things are falling, a weird way. And, like I said, Marvin Harrison Jr. is off the board. Malik Neighbors is off the board. I'm looking at the Bears at 9. The Bears obviously have DJ Moore. They went and got Keenan Allen, one of my favorite wide receivers. And I love Keenan Allen. So underrated. He reminds me of Terry McLaurin. Super underrated. But he's so reliable. So maybe the Bears are looking at 9 like, hey, this pick is for sale, by the way. Maybe they go offensive line, maybe another pass rusher with Montez Sweat. Maybe I don't know. They're flexible. Heck, maybe they go say Cole Kmet, we love you, but Brock Bowers is here. Maybe they beef up the interior D-line. Who knows? But at pick 9, it's going to be very enticing for a team like the Bengals to say, okay, like I said, Malik Neighbors went off the board. Rome Odunze. Now we've got this run at quarterback. We've got some offensive linemen coming off the board. Maybe Rome Odunze is there at 9, and they say, let's trade up with the Bears. We lost T Higgins. We traded him to whoever. Let's call the Bears and see if that pick is for sale. And I'm telling you guys, that would be such a deadly combo if he makes it there to 9. Swamino says T Higgins to the Jets. I can see it. Daniel Jeremiah did a mock draft today talking about how the Jets could trade up to 4 for the Cardinals and get, I think he had him getting Marvin Harrison Jr. So that's a bold take as well, which kind of, honestly, that, excuse me, that draft and his predictions is kind of what enticed me to do this, these scenarios today. Just looking at some bold things that could happen, like that have good reasoning behind them. But I can see the Jets being aggressive and looking for a wide receiver as well. I would love T Higgins to the Jets. Go all in. Get that wide receiver. Obviously, Garrett Wilson's a stud. You're looking for that dominant guy opposite of him to take games over, and Rodgers is coming back. Like, this is the year. We probably aren't getting another year of Rodgers after this. So Jets fans, like, full send, whatever it takes. Would you send pick 10 for T Higgins? I don't know. That's hefty because you got to pay T Higgins as well. Keep pounding. We got some Panthers fans in the chat. Let's go. T Higgins to the Panthers. They've been interested in him, and he played at Clemson. Absolutely. Love Carolina. I'm a Carolina boy, actually. A lot of people don't know that. I'm a Carolina boy born in South Carolina. You can hear it come out sometimes. But the Panthers do absolutely need to be aggressive. And when you're looking at, obviously, with their draft, they don't have that number 1 pick, which sucks. So maybe they can trade some assets for next year, maybe a second, whatever, to get T Higgins. I don't think it's a first for T Higgins. I think it's going to be a second because you do have to pay him. But I think the Bengals say, look, we are not, Tyler Boyd's still a free agent, hasn't gone anywhere yet. Maybe they bring him back. Who knows? But the Bengals are like, look, we can't, lose Tyler Boyd and we can't lose T Higgins and then expect to just keep things going. We've got to get back to fighting with the Chiefs. The Bills, who knows what they're about to look like this season. Lost a lot of vets, but I don't know. I'm still big on the Bills this year coming up. But the Bengals are like, look, we have to stay in this window to compete, get back to the Super Bowl. Rome Odunze keeps you in that conversation throughout the whole season. I absolutely love Rome. Sanchez 250 says, I can see T Higgins going to the Chargers and drafting Neighbors. That would be fire. So, T Higgins on the Chargers too. Sign me up for that. Absolutely love that. Like, I love Justin Herbert. Please get him some more help. I hate that he lost Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Like, they have to be aggressive. Chargers absolutely have to be aggressive. I don't see them trading back. Like, I saw a couple of people saying the Chargers could trade back. I don't see that. But the Bengals trading up to 9 with the Bears, getting Rome Odunze would be one of the smartest moves in the first round. Yes, they have some question marks. They need a tight end. Wait on a tight end. Get a tight end in a second. Like, Brock Bowers isn't going to be there at 18 probably. You need some help on D-line maybe. Especially that interior. You got guys like Murphy, Newton, whatever. Just wait. Get that elite talent. You remember the graphic where it's showing like the quarterback throwing, but there's no line or whatever? Just don't worry about it. Rome Odunze is down there somewhere, and Jamar Chase is going to thank you for getting Rome Odunze. All right, so we had JJ McCarthy as quarterback 3. The Vikings trading up to 3 with the Patriots. Patriots like, look, we need more than a quarterback. Somebody come get this pick. Give us this historical, whatever. We're going to trade back. JJ McCarthy goes 3 to the Vikings. Malik Neighbors could be wide receiver 1, depending on what you really want in your wide receiver total package. The Bengals could be aggressive in getting Rome Odunze after losing T Higgins. And I had to bring my team into the mix at some point because I think this is very likely as well. Excuse me. I think that Washington is aggressive in trading back up into the first round. And when you see all these quarterbacks and wide receivers start coming off the board, you're going to see somebody like Olu Fashanu, left tackle out of Penn State, start to slip down a little bit. Now, where's the sweet spot? Washington, obviously, they've been aggressive. They've traded Sam Howell. They've gotten all these draft assets to say, look, we are in a position to come back into the first round. We haven't signed anyone to free agency yet for left tackle, and even if they do, it's probably gonna be like some depth guy, someone that kind of just fills the hole just in case. Already have 2 top 30 visits with offensive tackles ready to go for the draft. So obviously, Washington is in a great position to want to trade back up into the first round. And in my opinion, like I said, I mean, it could be like the Titans, it could be the Giants if they decide to go that route. Maybe he falls down just a little bit. Like I said, this run of quarterbacks and wide receivers really helps things out. That skill position being at an elite level, this draft could send a guy like Olu Fashanu. I could absolutely see a case where he's down there at 11, 12, or 13. And that's where I'm really taking a look at it. So like I said, the Vikings could trade up to 3. The Patriots would have the 11th pick. Or if the Vikings don't, they're like, look, the quarterback we like might not be here right now. Same with the Broncos. The Broncos don't have a lot of high draft capital. So I could see them saying like, look, let's trade back. We obviously need a quarterback, but all the good ones were taken with Caleb Williams, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels all went in the top 10. We are kind of just screwed. But then you also have the Raiders at 13, which is an interesting spot, which is where I keep going to saying like maybe, they have Gardner Minshew. I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is the greatest quarterback of all time, but they paid him a pretty hefty amount. And I think they're saying, look, worst case scenario, we are okay with going with Gardner Minshew for a year. I don't think they will. I think they will, draft someone like a Michael Penix and just roll a dice on him to see if he translates well, to see if he stays healthy, and you have a guy like Gardner Minshew to back up. But you're just sitting there like, okay, well, all the quarterbacks are taken. Let's trade back. Let's get some more assets. Let's build the rest of this team around. Once again, Coach AP, they got, things cooking. It's a new era coming in the Raiders. They got new vibes. They were aggressive in free agency. They made some really good moves I like. Got Max Crosby some help. So I like it. I like the direction that the Raiders are heading in. Are they Super Bowl bound? No, not yet. But I think that 12 and 13 spot with the Broncos and Raiders is an interesting spot to trade up. Look, Washington has 2 second-round picks. They have a ton of thirds. They have draft picks next year if they have to. They have everything it takes to trade up and get Olu Fashanu. Now, Olu's been one of the best pass protection left tackles in college for a long time. Now he goes to the combine, he has his pro day, whatever, and his hands are a little small. I don't care. Like I said, covering Penn State, I got to see this guy up close and personal. This guy has the exact mold of what I look for in a left tackle. I think he's a smooth operator with his footwork. I like his hand placement. I like how he anticipates contact. And he's still super young. He could have come out last year. He'd have been a top 5 pick, in my opinion. I think he'd been the first left tackle taken. He goes back to Penn State, says, look, guys, there's still more I want to work on. I want to be the best me going into the draft. I absolutely love that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think Washington drafts their quarterback at 2, and I think they trade back up. I don't want to say as high as like what the Texans did when they got C.J. Stroud and they got Will Anderson, but making it back up into that top 15, closer to 10, just so you can get Olu Fashanu, in my opinion, would be one of the best decisions Washington could make. You have to protect that rookie quarterback. You got to get him. Raiders maybe trade up for May. I don't see May going past 3. Some people have him falling for whatever reason. Like, oh, he's a project quarterback. I don't see it. I love Drake May. Like I said, I personally have him going 2 to Washington, but I could absolutely see, maybe Jaden goes 2. Maybe whoever's at 3, whether it's the Patriots or the Vikings, like I said, if the Vikings go up and they take JJ McCarthy over May, who knows? No one knows what teams like in their quarterback, what they're wanting, who really fits what they want to do. Bears trade number 1, draft MHJ or neighbors, and draft JJ at 9. I don't see it. There's no, in my opinion, there's a 0% chance the Bears miss out on Caleb Williams. You showed your hand. You traded Justin Fields for nothing. You did right by him, so that's great. Get your quarterback. Caleb's there. You have to take Caleb. In my opinion, there's no way they don't take him. But let's take a look at the polls. I asked who is the better wide receiver. 73% say Marvin Harrison Jr., 23% say Malik Neighbors, and 5% say Rome Odunze. So there are some people that think Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze is actually the best wide receiver. Not mad at it at all. Let's see. So let's take a look at the last one. So like I said, I think Washington trades up, be aggressive, get your franchise left tackle. I think he's phenomenal. I'm a huge Olu fan. I think Joe Alt right now is tackle 1 in the draft, and then I have Olu at 2. Some people have moved him down to like 3 or 4. I'm not buying it. I have him over Talise Fuaga. I have him over Troy Fatanu. I have him over JC Latham and Amarius Mims. Please, Adam, make the call. Go get Olu. Now, I mentioned earlier wide receivers and how there could be maybe a trade during the draft. And I just remember what it was like watching the draft when the Titans traded A.J. Brown to the Eagles. I was like, what? During the draft. And I remember Mike Vrabel's his immediate reaction, getting up, walking around the room. He wasn't too fond of it. But we've kind of heard some other rumblings and rumors kind of stirring. And this is something that was brought up a while back, but now a team has kind of entered the party. And that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. What if on draft night, the 49ers trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Jaguars? Now, would it take pick 17? That's a hefty pick. That is a hefty pick because you have to pay Brandon Aiyuk as well. You know, we heard this, like a month ago of like, oh, Brandon Aiyuk could be traded. Like, where's this coming from? Can they get a long-term deal done? Whatever. But Brandon Aiyuk is, in my opinion, I don't want to call him elite, but I think he is a really good wide receiver in this league. I'm a big Aiyuk fan. I think this last year he showed, look, guys, I can be a wide receiver 1 somewhere. The Jaguars really were trying to keep Calvin Ridley. It didn't work out. The Titans came out of nowhere and like, hey, while y'all are arguing, the Patriots and the Jaguars, we're going to sneak in and we're going to take Calvin Ridley. You know, they get Gabe Davis. They have Christian Kirk. I like Christian Kirk a lot. Gabe Davis is young. He has some upside to him. You don't know what you're going to get. But Trevor Lawrence is going to be like, hey, we need some help. We need some help. Last year is not who we are. Trevor Lawrence missed some big throws. I remember someone put out like a 2-minute video of like how close certain touchdowns were for Trevor Lawrence, whether it was dropped by the wide receiver or he just missed them on so many opportunities. There was a lot of points and opportunities left on the field for the Jaguars last year. A lot. They cannot do that again this year. I like the Jaguars. I think it's a good team to watch. It's a fun team to root for. Absolutely would love to see them trade for a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. So don't be surprised when we're sitting there. I'm going to be in Detroit. I'm going to be downtown. I'm going to be watching the draft. Don't be surprised when you hear that breaking news. There's a trade. Brandon Aiyuk is headed to Duval, to Jacksonville, and they trade the 17th pick. Then the 49ers would have pick 17, and then, of course, pick 31 to build their offensive line, maybe get another wide receiver to replace them. They have a couple of needs. I could absolutely see them doing that. I could see them taking a wide receiver at 17. Now, the question could be, why would Jacksonville trade for Aiyuk, pay Aiyuk, when this is a really good wide receiver draft? And I could absolutely see that argument. But, like I said, those top guys are going to be off the board at 17. Maybe Brian Thomas Jr. is there. That'd be huge for them. If he's there at 17, then maybe you just sit back, relax, and take your guy. Maybe they go like A.D. Mitchell. But I think after those first 4 guys, you're going to start seeing, the offensive linemen come in off the board, the corners, the edge rushers, and then the wide receivers will pick back up. I don't see Brian Thomas getting out of the top 20, in my opinion. So maybe he's there at 17. Maybe they go Brian Thomas. In my opinion, Brian Thomas is elite at everything, by the way. Like, his numbers are ridiculous. Malik Neighbors had some great company on the field at LSU. Would absolutely love that for him. But it's hard to get something like this in the NFL. It's hard to have a player like Brandon Aiyuk available, or even T Higgins. I talked about T. It doesn't happen a lot. These prospects in the NFL, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you're going to get. That's the beauty of the NFL draft. It's a wild card. It's a lottery. You're either going to hit big or you're going to miss completely and win nothing. Brandon Aiyuk, you've at least seen his upside. He's shown, like, look, even with Debo in the field, I can be a wide receiver one. Come get me. You've seen it. He's proven it. There's no question marks for Aiyuk, in my opinion. So maybe Jacksonville says, like, look, let's get the sure thing. Let's get the guy we've watched. We know he can do it. Let's trade pick 17 for Brandon Aiyuk. So, in my opinion, I could see it. Like I said, crazy things happened during the draft. The AJ Brown one took me by surprise. Let's do a quick little recap. So, like I said, I think JJ McCarthy could be quarterback 3 in the league. The league loves JJ McCarthy. Malik Neighbors going wide receiver 1 isn't the craziest thing to say out loud. Because when it comes to a complete package in a wide receiver, maybe that's what the Cardinals are looking for with Malik Neighbors, someone who's better after the catch. Someone that can line up in different spots in the offense. I'm not saying Marvin Harrison Jr. can't do that, but I think Malik Neighbors can do that better. Rome Odunze goes to the Bengals after they trade T Higgins. They say, look, guys, let's call the Bears at 9, trade back up into the first and get Rome Odunze to help out Jamar Chase, to help out Joe Burrow. Let's keep this thing going and compete for a Super Bowl. I think the Washington Commanders could trade up in the first round, getting an offensive tackle that sleeps a little bit because of the quarterback run and wide receiver run. I'm looking at picks 11, 12, or 13 to go get Olu Fashanu with one of these teams that miss out on their quarterback, like the Broncos or the Raiders. And then, like I said, Brandon Aiyuk to the Jaguars would not surprise me at all. Obviously, waiting to see what happens with T Higgins or where he could go, whether that's Carolina. Shoot, maybe he goes to Jacksonville. Who knows? But on draft night, I could see Brandon Aiyuk getting traded. Then the 49ers having 2 first-round picks. They can trade up. They can package something, or they can trade for a wide receiver, whatever. Or they sit there at 17, take a wide receiver, and then at 31, take offensive line, or maybe vice versa, because both are really good in this draft. So I appreciate y'all stopping by. It was always a good time chopping it up, talking crazy things going on in the NFL. Obviously, the draft is quickly approaching, so stay tuned for more streams here on Bleacher Report. And go over to my page and follow me. Even if you're not a Washington fan, I'll be cooking up some more stuff on my profile and posting things. But I'll see y'all next time here on Bleacher Report. Peace.